the Fan3Cast, dishing out the hottest NASCAR news and views while celebrating the three's historic comeback. Here are your hosts, Michael Metzger and Jason Schultz.
Another racing weekend is behind us, and another one where we're talking rain.
Well, we'd like to thank Matt Weaver for being at the track again. He happened to bring the rain, but we still got a great day of racing on Sunday, and it was close to pretty action-packed.
It would be cool if NASCAR could do more of these doubleheader races in the future. I don't know how feasible they could be because the crowd looked pretty sparse at Martinsville when they tried pulling it off. Incorporating both races, we get an action-packed day. I know, Jason, I can say for myself, I was pretty busy a whole day long trying to keep up with everything that was going on.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. And one thing I really expected with the doubleheader was a bunch of people there for the truck race at the end, and it really wasn't that big of a crowd. Probably people had to get back home for work on Monday or school or whatever, but I did expect some more people in the stands, but they did. The one who did miss a pretty action-packed race.
It was, and Gene Haas's gamble on Kurt Busch paid off with a victory. Stewart-Haas Racing now has two cars that are pretty much locked into the chase. If we continue this trend of winners, we might actually see 16 or 17 winners this year. It was a good redemption story for Kurt Busch. The only problem I saw with it, Jason, was it was kind of overshadowed with the shenanigans between him and Brad Keselowski.
Oh, definitely. I think had that incident not happened, we would be talking a lot more about Kurt Busch and the comeback story and all that. But the Brad Keselowski story definitely was big, and I think Brad definitely blew it up bigger than it really is. It wasn't really the biggest in the world. It happens. It's Martinsville, short track racing. Brad really overreacted, in my opinion, and he should have been a little calmer, not to wreck Kurt Busch or trying to fly his tires on backstretch. I think that's a little over the edge, and now that he's probably planned on giving him some payback in the coming races, I don't really think it's necessary, and I think Brad just needs to calm down. He was definitely a little too fired up after the incident on Sunday.
I had two observations from that. The first being, I don't know if Brad's point was not to actually inflict damage, just to be kind of a nuisance, so kudos to him if that was his intent instead of just going out there and blatantly wrecking him. The other observation I had is, I don't know about you, Jason, but that pit road was just chaos. Every caution pit stop that they had, it just seemed like it was about 10 cars that were all trying to go for the same spot, and I'm surprised more accidents didn't happen on pit road like we saw between Brad and Kurt.
Oh, definitely. It was always congested there. Martinsville has one of the tightest pit roads, and for some reason, I don't tend to hear about all these stories of guys getting injured to that pit road, but Sunday definitely made up for all the years that really lacked any pit road incidents, but it was definitely tight, and you saw guys going 3 wide on pit road, and then trying to squeeze through is just not possible, but you definitely could tell that they were trying to get every spot they can on pit road.
A great thing that I am seeing this year, I'm just going to kind of jump in here with this. So despite my Twitter handle and my website being Start and Park Blog, I don't actually like Start and Parks. It was kind of picked as an ironic thing in the time where Start and Park was prevalent. But Jason, Martinsville was yet another race where we had the competitors go mostly the entire time. I think there was 2 or 3 DNFs, but they were like over halfway through the race before they parked it. So it's almost like the tide is turning in at least a Cup Series where teams are going all out nowadays.
And that's a really great story. I love to hear those kinds of stories of, we're not seeing teams just park anymore. We're seeing them actually race, and it's always more interesting when there's more cars on the track. And now all these cars can have, more of an opportunity to win in Martinsville. You may not think that, but short track racing usually allows for a little easier if drivers, if that one smaller team has a really good day, they can get up front and really get a decent finish. And I think those drivers tend to sometimes start in park probably realize that maybe I can't have a good day, and they decide to let's go for this win week, not for the win week. Let's go for it all on the race and try to get a great finish because it's definitely possible.
Now that random tangent will circle back around to maybe that's why we don't recall as many of these instances on pit road, because you'd have so many cars drop off near the beginning of the race, they wouldn't be here the entire time.
While Kurt Busch was celebrating on Sunday, his and probably didn't have the greatest days either. You saw Kevin Harvick had a top 10, which is great, but Tony Stewart and Danica Patrick, they didn't have the greatest days, which really tells the story of their season so far. They usually have a driver, one or two drivers that are running up front and doing well, and then the other two or three are having awful days, and it's just pretty weird to see that happen, how one team, how a single team can have one driver doing really well and the other driver's doing pretty awful, and just that's how their season's been going, and Martinsville showed that again, and Kurt Busch, when he won, it was like he was very good for him about where's the rest of the team going up front, so maybe a little lack of sharing information with that team if they can't all be on the same page, because if the 41 teams shared with the other teams what info they had to make their car fast, I would bet that we would have seen all the other cars really up front competing within the top 10 too.
Now, when we put this down as a topic to talk about, I was sitting there thinking that maybe it was a Stewart-Haas issue. Maybe their team just hasn't gotten together like they wanted it to. Then I got thinking about it a little bit more, and thinking back in my historical record of my brain, I was thinking to Rick Hendricks, Hendrick Motorsports, and Jack Roush's team. And whenever Roush had 4 cars, it always seemed like there was at least 1 or 2 that were always lagging behind the other 2. Then they finally condensed down to 3, and I think they have a better dynamic for that. And even with Hendrick Motorsports, you usually had one team that was just off on an island. 2008 and 9, it was Dale Earnhardt Jr. Then the 5 car kind of disappeared for a little while before Casey Kane took over. 4 is the most, obviously the most you can have in NASCAR, but kind of keeping that dynamic, it seems like 3 is kind of the way to go if you want to be competitive week in, week out with your teams.
And I've noticed that with Richard Childress Racing the last year, they have upgraded for downgrade to 3. They're currently at 3 now, and it seems to be running much better than when they had 4 cars. I remember the year they had 4 cars, they struggled, and they couldn't really put everything together to really be competitive. So 3 is definitely, I think, the best number for a team, and they can usually manage 2 teams and have them really running well. So I think Childress Racing was one team that took a hint at that. Maybe 4 cars isn't the greatest thing. I know they were considering adding a 4th car for many years, but when they realized that it's more of a struggle with 4 cars, I think they're smart to stay at 3 and not really upgrade unless they, really have to.
Yeah, especially for them, unless there's a marquee driver out there and a good sponsorship out there, they're probably best served staying with 3. And the one team that I have seen 4 cars actually be managed well, which gives them a lot more props, is Hendrick Motorsports. Sunday, Jimmie Johnson came so close to victory. He led 296 laps on Sunday, but just didn't have enough for Kurt Busch in the end. He keeps knocking on the door. I don't think it's time to panic just yet. They're right there. They're being competitive. They're just not closing the deal.
It definitely will be. And one thing we also saw on Sunday was the 6 different winners so far this season, and with Kurt Busch, and it's been really a special start to the season. We've seen 6 different guys win last year when we went to Martinsville, where Jimmie Johnson won second race. So it was basically 5 last year, but we're up to 6, and really with the opportunity to add more. So, and of course, the talk is that because of the chase, this is why we're getting 6 different winners, because they're going after the wins much more. And that may be true, but I also think it's just a lot of guys are really competing much better than they have in the past 2 years, which is really opening the door for different guys to compete up front and grab the wins. Because a year ago, we probably wanted to see Kurt Busch winning this early in the season. Granted, logistics are different, but it's just special to see 6 guys win in the first 6 races this season.
It's interesting that we were just 1 corner away from having that broken after the 3rd race at Las Vegas. If Earnhardt Jr. doesn't run out of fuel, then we wouldn't be talking about this point. But it's nice to see the gambles that different teams are taking nowadays to get those wins. Like Kurt, he made a good move last week at the Auto Club Speedway with his teammate and owner Tony Stewart to get tires to put himself in position to win. It didn't work out, but it's those kind of gambles I think that teams are taking, kind of like what you said, Jason, that are going to open the door for a lot more winners and a lot more people that you wouldn't normally see up there trying to mix it up late in races.
And those gambles, of course, causing more excitement, which is never a bad thing.
Exactly. The one last topic from the weekend that we do want to touch on is around Denny Hamlin. I kind of thought that this whole he had to sit out at Auto Club Speedway was going to go away this week, but it kind of intensified after we did the last week's podcast where Hamlin actually explained what was going on with his eye, which was basically a piece of metal was in his eye. They removed that, but it had left behind some rust that needed to be cleared out as well. Hamlin went on the defensive to defend his character on Friday with the media and just kind of tore into, I don't know if you could call it unnamed sources or just anyone who doubted him, which I'm not even sure who those people are, but does Hamlin have to go this far in defending his character? Because his health is his business, but at the same time, it seems like the gossip girls started working in the NASCAR garages.
If you had a race car driver in his position, I would never question why they sat out of the race. Then he would never want to sit out of his garage. And he's got such a great thing going at JVR, and he's pretty good at Auto Club Speedway to get before you act. So for him to sit out was a really big decision, and I'm pretty sure NASCAR made a call for him. He didn't want to sit out, but you definitely can't say he was, covering up a drug story or drug test, which I'm pretty sure he said that or something like that. So it was definitely a medical problem. He definitely I wouldn't think he would sit out just because he was trying to cover up a drug story or something like that. So I think the decision was definitely not hands in. You can't really question his character based off of that, him having sit out for a medical reason.
The only thing I can think of is going back to when AJ Allmendinger got pulled right before the Daytona race. Who would have thought Allmendinger would have done anything wrong to fail a test or give away an opportunity like driving for Team Penske? So I guess maybe that has some people in the media fresh on their minds that maybe it could have been a similar situation. But yeah, Hamlin shouldn't have to defend his character, but he did, and I think he did definitely make a good case, and hopefully people can put this behind him. Now, Jason, we missed some restarts and we missed some cautions while watching commercials. Do you think Fox is getting it together, or is that just a product of short track racing, or do we got something bigger brewing?
With Fox and some restarts and some cautions, it's definitely a product of the short track racing. Every time we go to short tracks, it's always hard. The cautions go by so fast, and the laps are really the caution laps are turned pretty quickly. So it's always hard for TV to get the commercials in and everything before the race gets back screen. So it's always, you always see that with restarts being cut off, stuff like that. But you could have to come to expect that when they go to short tracks. When the caution is always, you never know when a caution is coming out. So you see that every track, but sometimes at a short track, disappointing because cautions are usually exciting. Maybe a guy got into another guy, or it was a guy who was having a good day. Good day got caught up in the last traffic and make you wreck. So that's good being able to see the caution unfold when the TV broadcast is being at short tracks, because it's always usually an interesting story live at Yellow Flag is waiting.
Something interesting that I saw on Twitter by Mike Joy was just talking about how the side-by-side times we had kind of discussed in previous episodes, why do they do it at certain points and they don't do it, then they do it again. Apparently that is decided by the sponsor and their marketing team at Fox, so they kind of pick the slots ahead of time, which makes no sense to me. You'd think you'd want to be like fluid, and if something really is going on, then you use it at that point instead of just picking, how about lap 50? How about lap whatever?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see maybe the end of the race, maybe the second half of the race, given side by side, they're really spreading it out sometimes. And maybe Fox will work on that in the future. I know fans really demand that. Usually when fans speak, the TV stations try to listen as best they can.
So jumping into this week's power rankings, Jason, we were doing pretty good about keeping similar rankings, so it kind of looked like we knew what we were talking about. This week we only share the number one person. Beyond that, it is a crapshoot between us.
It is. We have Jimmie Johnson at the top this week. He had another runner-up, but another solid performance, which he happened to finish second at Martinsville. And he's had some great performances over the last 2 weeks. He just hasn't got that victory, or he's been up front and then gets past, or has tires like at Fontana and got past like at Martinsville. So he is definitely really consistent right now and really running well. So that's great to have him on top. I have Daniel Jr. second. He is down to the top off the point, which is really a test of his, how great he's been doing this season. He finished third at Martinsville, which really gave him the go-ahead for my second place in the power again. I put Joey Logano third. He hasn't had, the most standout performances, but he's been really consistent.
Like you said, I have Jimmie Johnson at top. I mean, you said it pretty well. He's there. He's knocking on the door. Well, he doesn't quite have the positioning and the points that he should probably reflect what he's doing out there. He'll get there in time. Again, mine is stat-based, and I got Jeff Gordon second. I mean, he didn't score the win like everyone predicted at Martinsville, but he still had a solid race. And then I have Kevin Harvick still sitting third. Again, he didn't have a overwhelmingly great race at Martinsville, but he was able to stay up there, get a top 10 finish out of it. And honestly, when he's on track, he is fast, he's up front, and he's doing all the things that he needs to do. It's just a matter of staying on track.
We're heading to Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. We mentioned pretty much guys that are always strong there. When you go to Texas this weekend, you'll be sure to see some ducks flying around in the infield. Maybe you'll hear some ducks. And that is because of the Duck Dynasty Duck Commander sponsoring the race. Whole sprint cup race this weekend. And I saw a picture on Twitter. I'm not sure if you saw it. They painted white ducks in the infield next to the big logo in the grass.
That's awesome. I'm surprised that you didn't get on the first plane to get down to Texas to be there for this race.
Oh, you know how much I would want to do that. And it's not just, Texas race weekend. It's big basketball race weekend. And we're going to do that in a little while. And with Duck Dynasty, you'll see, if you like the show like I do, and I'm pretty sure I've got Mike liking it too.
I'm a closet fan.
You'll see some of the people featured on the show. You've got, I'm not sure of everyone, but Uncle Si is saying the command. You got Phil waving the green flag, so you'll definitely want to tune in and be in right to those stars on TV. And if you're going to Texas, which, we wish we were, the new big hawk on the backstretch, and then the largest HGT sprint in the world used to be at Charlotte, and then Texas built their own and beat the record. So that's going to be something really interesting to watch. And one thing I enjoy is when these TV cameras go by and see how big it is. And we've seen Charlotte over the last 2 years, but it's really cool to see it at Texas now.
I wonder if they're going to film any of the show while they're at the racetrack. That'd be kind of cool.
It would. I always wondered that when I went to the Super Bowl or somewhere. I was like, are they going to show it on the show? But I hope they do this one. It'll be really cool.
Now, with the big Haas, I'm wondering if on Saturday they're going to put up the Final Four and let the campers watch it on there. That'd be pretty cool.
I think you should contact the track president right now, because that would be a great idea.
All right. I'll pull up Eddie Gossage on the phone right now, as soon as we're done.
Speaking of basketball, it's a really big weekend for the Final Four, the end of the NCAA tournament, and it's going to be in Dallas, Texas at Cowboy Stadium. So it's really close to the race, and that's why you'll see the race weekend will spread out. We can get cars on track Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but the Cup race is typically Saturday night. As we move to Sunday to accommodate for the basketball games, which will be on Saturday night, and probably getting some more people to the track with both sporting events being in Dallas. And one NASCAR connection to the Final Four. If you've ever heard of him on Twitter, he's a really big NASCAR fan. Ben Broad, a shooting guard for the Wisconsin Badgers, who made the Final Four, and he's a huge NASCAR fan, big Kevin Harvick fan. He's been really active on Twitter with NASCAR for about 2 years. He spotted for Brendan Gaughan at Road America last year, so he's probably one of the more well-known college basketball players in the NASCAR community. And it'll be interesting to see if he gets to the track. But if he does make the championship game on Monday, I really hope he doesn't come to the track focusing on taking home the title.
No, I thank you for that explanation, because I have seen his name all around Twitter, but I have yet to figure out. I knew he played basketball, but what his connection to everything was. So thank you, Jason, for that, because now I feel like I'm informed.
I found him on Twitter a few years ago, and found him as a fan before a basketball player, but I generally both see him over about 2 years. I know I followed him when he was, off the bench and just a freshman, and now he's a senior, and he's leading the team with 3-pointers, so it's pretty cool. And I'm sure he'll have NASCAR on his mind as well as basketball throughout the weekend.
Yeah, hopefully he puts his effort towards the basketball, but if he does check out the NASCAR races, I wonder if he's going to see any more tire troubles that we saw last weekend at the track.
There's been small hints that could return this weekend, and it could, and I want to oppose it. Usually it makes for a great Fontana race. It's a lot different strategy having to come into play because of tires, so they'll just add another element to the race. That's always going to be exciting if, tires tires to start wearing like they did at Fontana.
See, I'm on the fence. I enjoy the different aspect that it does bring to a race, but the last thing that you want is a guy sailing off almost 200 miles per hour in the corner and the right front tire especially going, and he pops the outside wall. You just don't want to see anyone get hurt out there, but it is a different factor that crew chiefs have to kind of do strategy around it. It kind of gets you back to the old days where something outside of the box maybe to do to get yourself up front to try to get a win.
Yeah, we definitely do not want that, and we really don't want that for our picks this weekend. And I'm really torn between a few guys this weekend, but I think I'm going to go with Matt Kenseth. He's had really strong performances at the track in the past. He's won there, and last time that they were at Texas November, he had a strong run, which he really needed to stay in championship on. So I think it's his weekend. He hasn't won a race season. He's been really competitive and close, but I think he finally will seal the deal at Texas this weekend.
Now, I can tell you exactly how well Matt Kenseth is going to do at Texas because he is also my pick, and you know that I delved into the stats when it came to Matt Kenseth. You could go the last 7 races, he's finished in the top 5, 6 of those races, including a win in the spring of 2011. Back it up a little bit more, 8 out of the last 10 races he's finished in the top 5. Back it up a little bit more, and you have 12 top 10 finishes in the last 14 races Matt Kenseth has been a part of. He hasn't won yet. He's due. He needs to get that victory, so I can definitely see him pulling off the one at Texas.
And if he wins, it'll be the 7th different winner of the spin, which will continue our conversation of if we're going to see 8 at Darlington, so that'll be interesting to watch as well.
And you have a vested interest in whether you can see someone go for 8, because you can actually see that in person, right, Jason? That's coming up.
Yes, that'll be great, and I'm sure we'll get to talk about it a ton more next weekend. And so it'll be interesting to see how this weekend's race does play into the annual Southern 500 in about a week.
All right, it's a big weekend of action. NASCAR, college basketball, all in the big state of Texas. Who you got in the Final Four? Badgers?
I like them. I've got my UConn Huskies and the Badgers, both my favorite teams, but I have to go with Florida because they are my pick in my bracket, and I've really done good points this weekend.
All right, I'm a novice who probably still thinks Syracuse is in it. I'm going to go with them. So we'll talk to you all next week.
Thanks for listening to the Fan3Cast. For more NASCAR coverage, check out startandparkblog.com and turn4racingnews.com. Follow along on Twitter at Fan3Cast, at startandparkblog, and at NASCARJason.